Hey there, my name is Josh Diotti here with Customer Relations, and today we are here to get you ready for delivery day. That's right, it's finally here. And so I am sure you have watched a lot of the component videos to help you decide if the product is for you or not. And so the goal of this video here today is to help educate you on how to use your van to make sure you are ready to go. And so slow us down, turn closed captions on, rewind, rewatch the video completely if you need to. Make sure you take notes, write any questions down so that we can best use your time here on delivery day. So with that being said, let's get started. The Mastervolt screen here is going to control your electronics. It's going to give you a snapshot and a view of what's going on with the van. All right. And so the cool thing about our Lithium system is that, as you see when we get under there and talk through that cabinet, it's going to sound really complicated, and it's a whole management system that is working together to make stuff happen, and yet it's very user-friendly. Okay, so kind of like I compare it to Apple. I feel like their stuff is very complicated if you look into it, but very easy to use. The integration is awesome. So to wake up your screen here, there's this little circle icon. We're just going to press our thumb on that. It is not pressure sensitive, it is just thumb sensitive. So hitting it harder is not going to do much. But we're just going to hold our thumb there for 3 to 5 seconds. We already had it on, but usually there's a little Mastervolt screen that pops up and says, like, welcome, traveler. So, but yeah, so this front screen here, you're going to see 6 little white cube boxes, and those are going to be our readings on the electronics. Okay, so I know you'd asked about the air conditioner and how, like, much power does that pull. And so you're going to see a couple things written on these top ones: primary, primary, primary. So those give you a reading on the battery. So if you want to think about that as saying not primary, but battery, 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 those give you a reading on from total, sky view, what is that, what is our readings on the batteries, okay? And on the bottom, we see inverter, inverter, inverter. All those settings and readings will be on the inverter, okay? So primary, or basically that top row description, deals with the component we're talking about, the device we're talking about. And then the bottom says more specifically regarding what. Okay, so we are primary, we are battery regarding state of charge. Okay, so this gives us an overall sky view of the battery, everything power in, power out, what percent charge are we at? We're at a 93% charge right now. Okay, second here we have primary battery regarding time remaining. So with currently in this very second what's running, how much longer can we run before our system is dead? And so this has a 1 day and 5 hour reading. This is maybe the biggest advantage of Lithium for you as a user, is that you can see with what I'm currently running, how much longer can I do this before my system is dead.
Is that like 100% dead or down to like 10%?
Usable power for you.
Yeah, okay.
So not 100% on the batteries, but usable.
Right, so that's already taken into account.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, and so that's very cool. And then primary, so battery regarding the current. So this gives you a total of all of the power coming in, charging, and all the outgoing power. What is my net, like, loss or gain? So usually this will be at a negative number. And right now we're at negative 10. Okay, so we're losing 10 amps. As we hit things like our lights, so if I turn our accent lights off, you're going to see that was at negative 10 amps. Now we're at negative 3. So it's kind of cool because you can see, okay, my accent lights take around 7 amps, right? Because we just jumped up by that much. And so,
even though you're plugged in, or is that?
We're not plugged in right now.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
okay, got it. Okay,
so,
gotcha. All right.
Yeah, and what's crazy is we were at 1 day and 5 hours. When I turned accent off, that jumped up to 3 days and 6 hours.
Whoa.
So you can start to see how much like each component pulls and how that affects your time remaining. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so the accent isn't LED.
They're not LEDs. Nope.
Why? Why not?
Yeah.
Not that I was curious.
Yeah, we don't do LEDs just because they don't last a long time is what we found. And so rather we do a singular non-LED that is long lasting.
Cool, okay.
That way they don't need to come back and be replaced.
Yeah.
So, great question. But yeah, so does that make sense on the primary and then like state of charge, primary, time remaining? Any questions on those three?
No, that makes sense.
Okay.
That's really cool. Yeah.
All right, and then down low we have our inverter. Okay, now our inverter has got 3 jobs. We are going to invert is going to be the first job, which inverting, again, we're just taking DC power stored in a battery and we're inverting that to AC power. And that would be used for outlets in the van, and that would be used for the air conditioner. So the inverter here says on. We would need that to be on to run our air conditioner or any of the white outlets you see around the van. Okay, so all that to say, it takes power to turn on the inverter. Kind of like if you had a computer turned on, it takes power to run that computer. Okay, and so all that to say, if you were wanting to save power, like you had your van parked for a couple days or something, you're leaving for an afternoon, a good way to save power is just flick that to off. Okay, and that's going to save a lot of power. Now, I do hear people say like, okay, I totally want to save that 7 to 10% power loss per day by turning that off. However, like I do want to keep my fridge running. And so the cool thing about the Dometics is they run off AC or DC. They come with 2 power cords. And so we do include a 12-volt DC port if you're wanting to still plug in your cooler.
Right, okay.
Okay,
cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Because again, DC power, you don't need an inverter, right? You're just coming direct from the battery. So.
Okay.
All right, so I just flick that to off, and then it says inverter device state. We are currently off.
Okay.
Okay, so if I flick that back on, that's going to catch up here in a second and switch to inverter device state. We're now inverting. Okay. Meaning we're powering our outlets, powering air conditioner. Currently, though, we have nothing plugged into the van. No phone chargers, no computer chargers. The air conditioner's not on, so our output power is 0 watts. Okay. But you have a 2,000 watt inverter. So to give you an idea, like phone chargers, I think are a couple hundred watts. Air conditioner, like I told you, will be around that 1,000 watt range.
What's the Dometic?
Dometic, good question. So the thing about the Dometic is it's currently plugged in right now to an outlet, AC power, but it is already cooled down. So the compressor is not kicked on. It's just sitting at a temperature, and so this is giving you a 3-day, 5-hour reading. This could kick on in a couple minutes and turn the compressor on to cool down by 2 degrees. And this would change a little bit.
So, okay. So one thing this is, I guess, well, should I let you finish?
No, please ask. Interrupt me. Yeah, great.
Okay, so I'm used to cooking with like, either the jet boil, which I don't want to use in here. Yeah. So I have like a little electric tea kettle that's 1,000 watts. Let's just say that, for instance, which I brought with me.
Amazing.
Because like, making coffee in the van is like this big deal to me.
Absolutely, it's the vibe.
It's like I'm like, if I could just do this in the morning without my fingers falling off, and anyway. So I just happen to have this electric tea kettle lying around. Yeah. So okay, I want to pull that to 1,000.
Is that is that the reading on like the box? Just
that's what the bottom of the little doohickey says. So if I'm running, this might be plugged in, but if the compressor's not running. Then
we're inverting nothing.
We're not, So, and then same with an induction cooktop. If I wanted to do that for general cooking, I think most of them are like 1,800 watts for like boiling water.
Yeah, they're like 1,500 to 1,800.
Yeah, but some of them you can have like lower settings, and so you're pulling much less.
Yeah, so that's my point. Just like I told you, the air conditioners rated at 1,800 watts. That is high fan speed. Right. Really going at it to cool. Same thing with your tea kettle. If you had a full pot of water and you were getting it up to boiling setting, that would probably be 1,000 watts. My guess is it's going to sit more around the 600 for a thing of coffee. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting, to see what happens.
Right. Same with an induction burner, like you said. If you have a 2-burner induction burner and you're only using one side on a medium heat, that's going to be probably a quarter of the watts. Quarter to half of the watts.
Do people use propane in here with like the fan on or window open? Or
I've seen people do that. Yeah.
I know people do it all over in van life, but I'm just wondering if.
Yeah, obviously we don't install propane just for liability reasons, but I think you'd find, a couple of us have used them, but yeah, you also are equipped with lithium, so
yeah, I know. I'm gonna look into this. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because I was like, if I could get rid of not running the gas in the van and just maybe have my little single cooktop with propane for outside. But
great question. Yeah. And the thing about lithium is that you will charge twice as fast as AGM. You will capture as much power, twice as much power, and you've got about twice the size of a battery bank as an AGM. Yeah. So you are really kind of beefed up to be able to do those types of things, and it be a little bit out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. As long as you're doing them in moderation, right? It's using an induction burner and then unplugging it, not leaving it on. It's doing the same thing with the water kettle. As long as you're doing that, you should have no issue. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So. You probably won't be able to do all 6 of those. You won't be able to run a blender, a toaster, an induction burner, and coffee pot all at once. But
And watch the news.
Yeah, right. But yeah, really good questions.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I'll turn the air conditioner back on. Again, that's AC, and I want you to see how that watt goes.
Okay.
I want you to see how this current changes, and I want you to see how the time remaining changes.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. And we're just going to just kind of sit here and watch it, all right?
Okay.
So we're at 3 days. We're at -3 amps. Now we're at 400 watts. The compressor hasn't kicked on that air conditioner though. That's just the fan. So you're going to hear it kind of pause, and then it's going to actually turn the compressor on here in a minute. And you're going to see just like that.
Okay.
And now you're going to see that jump up to 1300 watts. So usually startup power for a device is where it pulls the most. So you saw that jump to 1300 watts, and now it's down to 900.
Okay.
And now we're at -80 amps. We're at 3 hours and 42 minutes with what we're currently doing.
Right, okay.
Okay, now and that's in this very second, as it's running, you have 3 hours and 30 minutes of runtime. But again, this should be kicking on and off. So this is with it currently running, if it didn't stop, that's how much longer we have to run. Right. Again, it should cool down and then kick off. Yeah. And so then that would jump back up.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's just it's very important to express that is a very in this second. It's not accounting for it kicking on and off. It is just in this second. If it didn't shut off, what are we looking at? And so you can see you've got about 1,000 watts left of inverting power that you could do. Okay.
Can you is there an app for this on the phone?
There's not.
Okay.
No, not that I'm aware of for Mastervolt. Good question though. All right, makes sense. Any questions on that first screen? Okay. Cool thing is we've got a second screen here for you. So what you can do here is just look at the alternator. So we have alternator in regards to input voltage, alternator in regard to output current. So if you turn your engine on, obviously our device state right now is off. The engine's not running, so the alternators are not charging. So we have 0 amps being output by the alternator into our system, and our device state is off. That makes sense because we're not running that right now. But if you ever were curious if you're charging from your alternator, you just swipe to that second page like we just did there.
Yeah, and do you have to be driving, or do you just have the vehicle running?
The vehicle running will charge a little bit. Driving will charge.
The driving is the secret. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and like I said, I think I'd say approximately an hour to an hour and a half of driving. It just depends on what charge state you catch the batteries in. They have 3 states of charge that they kind of charge cycles they go through. Okay. And so you might have noticed, on your phone, it charges really fast, and then that last 10% is really hard to get to.
Okay. Yeah.
It's because of those charge cycles that a battery goes through. So.
What about temperature? So, not to bring that up again, but it being 3 degrees at my house.
Great
isn't
question.
Isn't by any means months at a time, but we get those pockets of it. Yeah. So is there any danger there? Or?
So just winterizing the lithium batteries and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. We'll talk about that here in a minute when I kind of go under there. So, but yeah, that's all there is for the Mastervolt screen. Unless you got more questions. So.
No, that's cool.
Okay.
I like it. It's very low profile.
In my van, I almost never look at this.
Oh, cool.
Because again, lithium is just, unless I'm running the air conditioner, it's really the only time I have to look at it.
Yeah.
To worry how my power's doing.
Right.
But if I'm just doing chargers, heater, fan, doing mobile workstation thing in spring, summer, fall.
Yeah.
I almost never look at this thing.
Cool.
So
Awesome.
it's it really is very efficient.
Yeah.
Okay?
Awesome.
Well, so first thing is to kind of hit is a lot of systems that go lithium, do a battery swap of AGM to lithium. We do not just go there. So we do a whole management system swap. Okay, so we're not just swapping and plugging and playing with batteries. We do a new inverter. We do a Mac 50 Plus, which we'll talk through. And so there's a whole management system involved to keep these batteries safe.
Yeah, okay.
And to keep them, the biggest thing is just keeping them safe, okay? And so all that to say, anything that's got this green-gray look is going to be your Mastervolt components, okay? So, well, I guess it's more of a teal, or a Jericho jade. But, so up first, we've got your inverter, okay? So as I said, this inverter has got 3 jobs here. That's that big kind of green square there. And that is going to be to invert your power from your DC power on your batteries to AC power for outlets in the air conditioner. Okay, the next one is going to be a charger. So you have a 100 amp hour charger, which is going to be when you plug into shore power, it's going to take 100 amps and kind of charge your system. Okay, so that's the second job. The next one would be kind of a shore power bypass. So meaning when we plug into shore power, it's going to automatically turn everything on.
Oh.
Like
okay.
all the outlets are going to have power, and the reason it does that is it's just more efficient. You know, if you had shore power and you come from inverter to batteries and you invert backwards to go back to stuff, that just takes more loss of power. And so instead of that, it just has that shore power bypass where it's going to, you know, power the outlets and if you wanted the air conditioner directly.
Okay, cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we're inverting, we're charging, and we're bypassing shore. You know, kind of doing that.
So
bypass.
I see like the benefit, like all these campsites these days. It's very hard to find, like if you're kind of stuck in a paved camp area.
Sure.
It's almost impossible to get tent sites these days. Like everything's got like
right.
power. So now I'll
True.
actually be able to use it. Like I
yeah.
spend $20 just to sleep in my car.
We go off any 110 outlet, so you
yeah.
don't need a special adapter
That's
for
awesome.
30 amps or anything.
Yeah,
You
okay.
keep it simple. In fact, we set your system to only pull 13 amps at a max.
Okay.
So 13 amps at a max should run your air conditioner, plus normally whatever else is in the van. Also, most house breakers, like in a garage or a house that you plug into, are on a 15 amp breaker.
Okay.
And we don't want to. We want to try to avoid flipping those.
Okay. Right.
So, but yeah, so we've got your Combi Master inverter. So that's going to charge from shore power. You have 2,000 watts of inverting power to invert DC to AC, and we've got that kind of that bypass from incoming shore, get that AC in. And so you'll kind of see those green lights there on the inverter. Right now, the only thing it's doing is inverting. So that middle inverter green light is on. If we plugged into shore power, you'd see those too. And then the 3 lights on the right side of this are just giving an indicator of where your battery percent is at. So that's like a rocket launcher, you know, grenade in the area light. Screen up there gives you a sniper shot of what percent you're at.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Up next, as we kind of swing over here, we have got your Mac 50 Plus, which is just a DC to DC charger, which will charge from your alternator essentially.
Okay.
So this is the device that is going to take that power from your alternator and charge your batteries. Okay, so it's just a DC to DC charger. It's got a flashing blue light on the front of it. That is totally normal. That just means it's on standby mode, ready to go.
Okay.
Not much to hit there other than it's really efficient. Again, 50 amps of charging capacity. Okay. Up next, we've got your 2 Mastervolt batteries. So we've got 2 200 amp hour batteries there, and those are deep cycle, all that, and yeah. So yellow switches, you have 2 of them because you have 2 batteries. Okay, so there's 1 coming off each battery, and those just connect to disconnect with events scheduled. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any extra? So I don't know how long batteries are supposed to last these days. Is there any reduction for the main engine battery because we're using it to?
Reduction meaning like we're draining the car battery.
Like life.
It should not affect the life of the car battery.
Okay.
Yep. No, you should be good.
Cool.
And the life of these is about 10 to 15 years.
Okay. Wow.
So, sound good?
Yeah. Amazing.
Okay. Right above that, you're going to see this little black white box. It says CL 305 103. You got a blinking red light there. That is a pre-programmed box that will control your rocker switches. So blinking red light, totally normal. Poor engineering choice of color.
Yeah. Okay.
So if anything's broken, just be aware of that. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, you move up north a little bit. We get to our VanDOit labeled little box there. That is a DC fuse box.
Okay.
And so that is labeled for you. So again, what is DC powered? All your rocker switches. So front light bar, rear light bar, all of those rocker switches, that devices we have up there. You know, USB cigarette lighter right here, our DC outlets I mentioned earlier. Espar heater, it's DC powered. So all of those devices are going to be listed there. And we even give you a spare in there. So if one does blow, I'd say 95% of our clients have never had that issue. But should that happen, you've got a spare in there. We also give you a bag of spares in your glove box.
Okay.
So you've got multiple extra. But that is your DC fuse block.
Nice.
Okay, where you just got some fuses in there. And yeah, you even can see you got your battery heater listed there. Okay, so that's working. Any questions on that device there?
No, that's cool.
Cool. It's labeled for you, so you don't have to know what's what. All right. After that, we got just some of our bigger fuses here that are incorporated with the batteries. So, inverter. We got our inverter. We got our remote battery switches, 1 for each battery. We got our Mac 50 Plus that's in charge of alternator charging. CL305 in charge of rocker switches. Red light, normal, blinking, good. VanDOit DC fuse, just bigger fuses, and we got our batteries. Any questions on any of those?
And I need to, like, if I have to access that for any reason, is it just the...
Just taking these off, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if you want to get just a set of like T-handle Allen wrenches, like 4, 5, and 6 millimeter, we recommend the ball end, just so you can come in at like a 27.5 degree angle if you need to. You
cool.
Can totally do that.
I'll have that for my bike stuff. So.
Cool. Very good.
Awesome.
All right. Other than that, I'm going to talk through these 3 things down here. Okay, so this is your solar controller right here. Okay, so that is really just out of sight, out of mind. It's always working. So you really never have to be thinking or worried about it. But if you're curious how it worked, you have got a little sun icon there in the top. That is just indicating that light is being read by the panels. Okay, and then there's a little arrow, and we get the 0.0 amps. That means we have 0 amps of incoming solar. So we're reading light, indicating there's light, but we're getting 0 amps in. Makes sense. We're not outside. And then we got like a little battery icon there, shows we're fully charged. Again, this is gonna be another thing that gives you a grenade in the area of where your batteries are at. That thing's a sniper shot. Okay. So I would just use that guy all the time.
All right.
But you're gonna see that you have an AC button here. A lot of times, like farmers, or we use this in our AGM system, that would turn an inverter on. We don't have to worry about that because we're running Mastervolt. Okay, so that button does nothing for you. Max boost. Max boost would just mean that your panels get a max pull on all the solar. I think, again, farmers and stuff use this a lot where they've got, a significant amount of solar running on their farm. That button would maybe do something that's a measurable difference. For us running 200 to 400 watts on a roof, that will make a very small measurable difference. And again, what that does in 24 hours, your alternator will do in about 5 to 10 minutes probably. So I would use it if you want, but I've never touched mine. Okay, so up next we've got the A button. That one is in regards to settings and stuff, so you should never have to touch it. And then the B button will cycle through some readings. So we have 0 amps right now. If you want to hit that, it gives you a % reading on your batteries. Again, that's a grenade in the area. That's about, I think that one says 92% right now. This is saying 100%, so that's way more accurate. Hit the B button again. 45 AH, so that's just going to give you a total reading across all time, how much solar have you collected. It's maybe semi-fun to go check that every once in a while. Okay. Hit it one more time. It's just giving us a 13.13 volt reading on the batteries, so it's just giving us a voltage on the batteries. And then in that percent, it's just converting that voltage to a % is how it's calculating that. So, but yeah, you've got a sun icon there. We're indicating light. And at nighttime, that will turn to a moon icon.
In case I'm wondering what time of day it is, I'll check it out.
There you go. You can't tell.
Oh, my phone fell asleep.
Yeah, no worries. You do have a little USB port right there on that. If you want to use that, you can, if you ever need to.
Okay.
But yeah. Other than that, we've got your carbon monoxide propane alarm, which I talked through a little bit earlier. But as long as that green light is there, you're pretty much operational. If you want to test it, do you want me to test it? Would dog be okay?
No, it's okay. I believe it. Oh, okay. Should we test it?
Do you want me to? Oh. It's green light, so it's working.
Okay,
but
she woke up.
So do it.
So
Don't
yeah,
do
go
it.
ahead. Do
okay.
It.
So if you ever want to test it, just hold down the button.
Okay.
And there you go. So I'm going to hold it down for 3 to 5 seconds again.
Wait,
and we're going back to green.
That's going to wake us up, isn't it?
Up next, we've got your DC outlet. So again, if you've got 2 USB ports there for phone chargers or something, if you don't want to have your inverter on. And then you've got a 12-volt one right there, like cigarette lighter style, which can run off your Dometic. So.
Okay. Cool.
That's pretty much this cabinet here. Any questions?
It's great. I figured that needs to stay not having like jackets shoved in it.
What do you mean? You mean open it up and shove jackets in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. I would say keep it open.
So that's what. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what my husband would have tried to do. He'd be like, "Oh, we got room to put some jackets in here.
Some open room.
Put some shoes in here."
That's funny. All right, I've got one last thing to show you on the electric side, and then we'll be good to kind of move around back. And then after that, we'll kind of get to a break point. So, cool. Well, right here we have got your fuse panel, not fuse panel. I'm sorry, breaker panel.
Okay.
So like a normal house, all your outlets run off a breaker in a garage or wherever in a storage room of some kind. We also have a breaker panel for your outlets here. Okay, so for AC power, you will have breakers. You'll see 15 amp, 15 amp, 15 amp. Really, that's broken into like front cabin, passenger side, driver side. Okay, so you'll see green lights on right now, which means our inverter is on, and our outlets have a green light. That means they're powered. So the top one, 20 amp, that is going to be for the air conditioner.
Okay.
Okay, which is also AC powered.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So if my air conditioner didn't work, two things I check are my inverter on and did my breaker flip.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, those would be like the first two questions to ask.
Okay.
If your outlets don't work, did my inverter get turned on or off, and did the breaker flip?
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay. Other than that, you will have 5 outlets in the van. So you'll have one here, you'll have one behind the kitchen pod, you have one right up by the TV, and then you've got 2 on your passenger side wall here, behind this cabinet. Sound good?
Yeah.
Any questions on those?
Nope.
Okay. I know we just talked through a lot about inverting and what you can run and not.
But that's cool. So in other words, I shouldn't necessarily. Okay, so I could run the air conditioner, and if I'm plugged in with the tea kettle, not that I would be doing this, but
sure.
If I'm not overdoing the watt pull of the system, I could do that. But then if I plugged in like the tea kettle and a cooktop, I could.
You could maybe flip a breaker. Yeah.
But that's like kind of obvious.
Yeah. Now the thing is, like, if you had, like I said, they're on separate breakers. So say you were, tea kettle over there on that wall, and then you were induction burner on this wall.
Yeah.
You would probably get an OVP error code, and so it wouldn't flip a breaker, but you're still requesting more than 2,000 watts.
Yeah, right.
And so the controller would say over voltage protection, and that's OVP error code.
Okay.
And it just means it just shut the inverter off.
Yeah.
And so it would just kick the inverter off as opposed to flipping a breaker if they were on separate.
Got
if you did 2 outlets on this side, yeah, it's going to flip a breaker before it flips the inverter.
Okay.
Good question.